Hi guys, this is Sumit, a front-end engineer at Adent Analytics, and in this tutorial we will explore drag and drop areas. I have attached the links for HubSpot documentation about drag and drop areas, which can be handy while developing drag and drop coded templates. So before we move forward, let me tell you that this drag and drop concept is a little bit different from the drag and drop templates which are created using the drag and drop editor. The drag and drop areas allow developers to create areas of pages and global partials, and this gives a lot of power to the content creators. Now, this functionality allows the content creators to place modules, change the layout, add some styling, and they also allow the editors to change different kinds of aspects which is not possible in a normal drag and drop template. So this enables the developers to create fewer templates because of one drag and drop template, which is a coded template. The content editors can change the layouts without having to come to the developer to create a new template with a different layout. So because of this flexibility, it is recommended that one theme should also have at least one drag and drop coded template. And these drag and drop coded templates are made by coding from scratch. So this is a completely coded template and you will have to code it from the scratch. So it is important to have Hubble knowledge as well as HTML knowledge. Now, from the developer's point of view, we need to place the modules into this template first with some default content. So that will provide a starting point for the content creators to work with. To create coded templates, we first need to navigate to the design tools, which is under the marketing tab. So we head over to the design tools, and now we need to create a new file. So we will create a new file, which is going to be a HTML plus Hubble file, and we click next. So this is going to be a template which we'll use for pages. Let's call this a simple D and then let's create. So this is the HTML markup which comes up as default in the template. So you can remove these modules which are default. We don't need them. So one thing which we need to understand here is there is a certain hierarchy we need to follow when we create drag and drop areas. So the hierarchy is as follows. The first element which comes is always the drag and drop area. So it is enclosed in the DND tag. So we write DND area, and we also need an end tag for it. So it is just like a div in an HTML. So here we use the end keyword. So end DND area. And the important thing to note here is all tags have certain parameters. So we can see the red mark coming here because it needs a unique name. Each DND area needs to have a unique name. So let's give this a unique name in quotes. Let's call this as home page. And we can also provide a class to this, but that class would be added to the div which is wrapped around this DND area. We could call it main, for example. And after this DND area, the next element which always comes is the DND section. So the one thing to note here is DND area is always followed by DND section. No other DND element can come after the DND area. So in the DND area we would have the DND section just like this, and DND section has a lot of properties. We will end it with the end DND section tag. We can also provide a name to this section. It need not be unique, but just for developer reference, so that once you are finished with your code and you are viewing it again, you can use this name as a reference. Let's call this like a section 1 or something. And with that, we can also use various parameters for your section. We can add a background color, we can add background image, we can also add gradients, full width, which is a boolean, so which tells HubSpot if we want the width of this section as a full width or not. We can also add margin and padding. So there are a lot of parameters which we can add here. Just by putting a comma, you can add a padding, which is a object. Here you will have to mention in quotes. For you will have to mention the value in quotes. So for example, top, we need the top padding as 20 pixels, so top 20. Similarly, you can also add bottom, which is again in quotes 20 pixels, and then end this. Okay, end this tag in this way. So there are multiple ways and multiple parameters which we can tweak here as a developer when we are coding the coded template. So after a section, what should always follow or can follow is either a module or a D&D column. So after a section, we can either add a module or we can add a D&D column. So these are the only two possible children of the D&D section. And this is the hierarchy which we need to always follow, or else you will see an error or you won't be able to publish your changes in the template. So just like the D&D section, the D&D column has multiple parameters which are very much similar to the D&D section. We have padding, we have margin, and we also have all the background properties like color, image, gradient. But with D&D column and D&D rows as well, we have a important parameter which is called offset, which can be very handy when we want to have two modules in a single row side by side, occupying either 50% width or one of them is occupying 40% width. In such cases, this offset parameter as well as the width parameter becomes very handy, and both of them are integers. The one thing which we always need to remember that HubSpot treats one row as a 12 column width. So we can provide it in integers like 2 column width or 4 column width. And that way we can set the width for all the modules or your D&D rows and columns. So talking about D&D rows, just like D&D sections and D&D columns, they have the same parameters like background color, background images, background gradient, and the last thing which comes here is the D&D module. The important thing here about D&D modules is that D&D modules need to have a path. So you can see here directly that we have a red alert or a red color getting displayed here for D&D module. Even if we add the end tag, that error will not go away because it is important to display the path for the module. So invalid argument because no path is specified. And by path, I mean is the path to the design manager module. For example, if I need to add one module here, we have a global info module. If I right click on this and copy path, I can paste this path here and you can see this path. So this is the path which is required when we are adding modules to our drag and drop coded template. So we can just remove this dot module extension. So just by this, we can add modules. After all, in the end, when we have completed this with the areas and sections, the important thing we need to add is the module itself, right? So with that, there are many more things like the parameters in the module which we can change, and these parameters are nothing but the fields which we have declared in the module itself. So how to manipulate this, we will be discussing it in the next video. But in this video, I wanted to give you an overview of what D&D areas is and how we use them in code. So the important takeaway for this is to remember that there is a hierarchy in which we have to strictly follow it. Like we have D&D area, which is to be followed by D&D section. And you can remember this one thing, which will be easy, so that you don't have to memorize all the other things. Like, we have D&D rows and column. We have sections and rows, so they both contain columns and modules. So you can say that a column directly cannot have a module, it needs to have a row in them. So columns can have multiple rows, so the only descendant of a column is a row. Whereas we have sections, which are special kinds of rows. They can have columns, but they also can have modules with them. So all of these rules and hierarchies has been very greatly described in detail on the HubSpot documentation, and you can read them and have much more information about different types of tags and what are their parameters. So in the next video, we will be exploring and creating a simple drag and drop coded template where we will use all these concepts in detail, and I will also show you how we can manipulate different module fields to add some default content in it. And we will also see how this template will look like in action when a content editor is going to use this template to create a page from this template. So thank you very much.